I'm Bargadell,
And I'm Warren Eichhoff,
and welcome to So What?
a place where we address the question that so many of our students are thinking about when it comes to historical events. So what?
Why do I need to know about trade? I already know the basics, finders, keepers, and no take backsies.
Following are but some of the answers to those questions, and as always, you should make up your opinion based on the facts.
Today, we will actually talk about the Renaissance.
Specifically, how the Renaissance arrived in Italy.
It all starts with this dude named Petrarch, and he started collecting these ancient texts from the Greek and Roman empires, most of which were located in Constantinople.
Constantinople was the heart of the Byzantine Empire and was the city that linked east and west.
I'm with the CDC, and I just have to say, so what? I'm not really sure what the CDC has to do with this, but who are you to challenge me? It stands for the Center of Disease Control. Maybe you've heard of us in the current situation we're under with COVID-19. Given the global pandemic, why should we bother learning about something as trivial as trade?
You're kidding, right? A CDC official doesn't know what the impact of trade is?
Well, I'm just an intern, but I thought this tie would make me look more official. Well, how about we focus on learning the basics that any educated person from the scientific community would be able to share? Where people end up traveling to in order to trade goods, they end up taking other things along with them by accident. Things like diseases. Let's go talk to an Italian merchant during the Renaissance, specifically Florence, year 1318. Hello, random Italian merchant. What can you tell me today of Italy's progress and your flourishing trade networks?
Well, I can't speak for all of Italy because we're all independent city-states after all, small areas autonomously ruled by local leaders. But here in Florence, the streets are littered with dead bodies. Everyone is getting sick, the disease is spreading, these big warts, they cover your body and then you die. Almost half the city is dead already. All trade has stopped since the disease has arrived, and there are those who think it's coming with the merchant ships. That's what brought the plague. I say Italy shall never be a flourishing trade center again.
Whoa, that was depressing. Maybe I went back too far. Let's fast forward a few years and go to Venice, Italy in the year 1400. Hello, random Italian merchant. What can you tell me today of Italy's progress and your flourishing trade networks?
Well, I can't speak for all of Italy because we are independent city-states, small areas autonomously ruled by our local leaders. But here in Venice, things are fantastic. Everything's beautiful and marble is everywhere. In fact, it's marvelous. And though we do trade our own goods, we make most of our profit from the transportation of valuable things. You might call them luxuries. Things were pretty bad for a few years there, with the sickness after all, but people got better and we lost maybe 50% of the population, but we're fine now. Now we work with the Egyptians and the Ottomans to bring the highest quality spices and goods from the Far East. We're making a killing on the trade, and all of Europe is benefiting, and virtually no one else sells salt like we do.
Oh, okay. Well, that was weird. Anyways, you keep being salty. As you can see, trade has its, well, trade-offs. While trade certainly will allow for Europe to enrich itself beyond what it even knows what to do with that amount of wealth, it also opens the door to the spreading of different things like diseases that could vastly impact their populations.
So much of our daily experience is impacted by, and in some ways directed by, the worldwide trade networks that bring us everything from our phones to our computers, clothing, and food.
As it so happens, the Renaissance was largely built by wealth that was generated through trade.
Many of the goods that Italian merchants began to bring in by sea after the Crusades were luxury goods that were not available in Europe. They included precious jewels, rugs, and fabrics like silk, muslin, taffeta, and satin.
The Mediterranean city-states of Venice and Genoa benefited from larger trade networks that they were only indirectly connected to. Now, it wasn't all about money. It also was about, disease! Dude, you don't have to be so excited about disease. What I was going to say is that it was also about an exchange of ideas, which arguably had a much bigger hand in creating the sort of culture necessary for an expanding Renaissance.
Right. The exchange along the land and sea routes brought languages, cultures, and religions, and the return of Grecian texts from the age of antiquity.
This is still something that happens to this day. Trade between countries encourages and in some ways forces people to engage with cultures beyond their own. Think of all of the food that is grown within 20 miles of your home. If you eat anything outside of those 20 miles, then you're influenced by trade.
Not to mention the different types of spices and the recipes and styles of food that came along. This is why you have so much variety to choose from today.
The traditional trade route that connected the east to the west was known as the Silk Road.
This was not some established highway protected by guards. Traders would travel this route to try their hand at making a big trade. The biggest threat to this were the many thieves that would swoop in, kill traders, and take their money.
There's something else that travels along trade lines that's even more deadly than thieves. Disease.
In many ways, disease travels where people go. So if a lot of people are moving between countries for trade, then disease is going to follow.
Understanding this concept makes it pretty easy to understand how COVID-19 was able to spread around the world so quickly. But let's bring this back to the 1300s for just a moment, where we will meet the most deadly creature in human history, the black rat.
The black rat is a small rodent that has a primary drive to find food. These rats find out that there is a lot of food on ships, so they stow away and travel around the world. This free trip wouldn't have been a problem if the rats hadn't carried with them fleas.
These fleas carried the bubonic plague. So as these rats and fleas traveled to new lands together, the fleas would bite the rats and infect them with the plague. But then new fleas would jump onto the rat and they would become infected. And then jump onto new rats, and so it would continue until the fleas found a new host. Humans.
Simple actions could have prevented infection. Showers, washing hands, doing laundry, soap. But all of these were extreme luxuries or hadn't been invented at the time.
People were cramped into really small living quarters, which were really poorly constructed, so rats had a really easy time finding their way into homes where people slept and the fleas would spread to them there. Livestock were brought into homes sometimes due to the weather, and rats followed them in as well, as did fleas. And as soon as somebody saw that the bubonic plague had taken hold, they would run to a different town.
At that point, it was probably too late. All that person did was take the disease to a new location and infected new people. All said and done, as much as a half of the total population of Europe died as a direct result of the bubonic plague, an event that would later be named the Black Death.
Trade is not just what happens when you press checkout on Amazon. It is a series of lines that connect all of society.
Food, language, music, art, and textiles like fabrics are all things that will be traded and be influenced by this system of trade.
While trade certainly created an environment where the Renaissance was allowed to occur, it also definitely created the world you have today.
Have a great day.
Huh. I never thought the past would help me solve problems in the modern day. Maybe if I use this information, I can help influence the ways that we would actually help solve and prevent future catastrophes. Until then, I should really deliver this coffee now.
Salty? Fish are salty. I'm no fish. I'm marvelous.